You know, I have my share of what I like to call my favorite punching bags on this channel. Coaches, players, or teams that I constantly criticize, and many times rightfully so because they give me so much material. The Cincinnati Bengals, for example. Though I did just praise them the other day for how well they handled the draft. Normally, when you guys hear me mention the Cincinnati Bengals, you know it's not going to be about something good. Most of the time, it's something that they fucked up. Bill O'Brien is another example. Odell Beckham. Eventually, one day, when I finish setting up my home studio in the back, I'm going to have to put up a wall of fame of sorts for my favorite sports figures that are just constantly fucking things up. Now, last NFL season, one of my favorite targets was Baker Mayfield, Freddie Kitchens, and the Cleveland Browns. Now, Freddie Kitchens is obviously no longer there. The Browns finally brought in someone who is qualified to be an NFL head coach in Kevin Stefanski. I think Freddie Kitchens is now the tight ends coach with the New York Giants, or he might be the head of catering for all I know. What I do know is he's no longer the fucking coach of the Cleveland Browns. The reason Baker Mayfield is one of my favorite targets is because he just makes it so easy. Players sometimes automatically ascend into superstardom. It happens all the time. LeBron James, Michael Vick, right now, Joe Burrow, all stars before they came into the NFL and the NBA. But Baker Mayfield wasn't. He was a little bit different. He was known, don't get it twisted, he was known, but he wasn't exactly a household name. That didn't really happen until the Browns closed out the 2018 season 5-3. And all of a sudden, there's a new star quarterback in Cleveland. All of last offseason, Baker Mayfield is all filming commercials. You couldn't watch an NFL game last year without seeing a motherfucking commercial with Baker Mayfield on my TV. The entire summer, all we heard about out of Cleveland was how great the Browns were going to be. They're the favorites to win the AFC North. It is Super Bowl or bust in Cleveland. Of course, we all know what the fuck happened. Per usual, the Browns sucked. They fell apart at the seams. Baker Mayfield's sophomore season in the NFL was an abject failure. It's been an interesting offseason for the Cleveland Browns. Change is in the air. First, they bring in Kevin Stefanski, a no-nonsense type of coach. Complete opposite of Freddie Kitchens. The Browns did pretty well in the draft. Got Baker Mayfield some help on the offensive line. They shored up some holes on the defensive side of the ball. But the most interesting move that Cleveland made this offseason was signing Case Keenum. When this happened last month, I came on here and I told you guys that Baker Mayfield's days in Cleveland could be numbered. Stefanski and the organization said all the right things when they brought Case Keenum in. We're bringing Case Keenum in as a backup only to mentor Baker Mayfield, help teach him Kevin Stefanski's offensive system. Bullshit. Case Keenum was brought in for one reason and one reason only. He's Baker Mayfield insurance. Stefanski and Keenum have a great relationship. Stefanski was the quarterback's coach back in 2017 with the Vikings when Case Keenum led them to the NFC Championship game. So these guys have experienced success together. I told you guys last month when this happened that bringing in Case Keenum creates a win-win situation for Kevin Stefanski. It's going to do either one of two things. It's going to motivate Baker Mayfield to keep his job, or it's going to cause him to fold under the pressure. For the first time in his career, Mayfield is going to be on a short leash. He's never had the threat of losing his starting position before. The fucking Browns weren't going to bench Baker Mayfield last season and put in Garrett fucking Gilbert. That wasn't going to happen. Everybody knew it. All of that has now changed. It appears that my initial thoughts on the Browns bringing in Case Keenum were right. Kevin Stefanski was on ESPN Radio in Cleveland Tuesday, and he also did an interview with Cleveland.com. And he had some interesting comments. Really, one thing stood out to me the most. Here's what he said, quote, "I feel confident that we put him in the system we're implementing. We added some pieces to the offensive side of the ball, which can only help the development of a young quarterback. Then, like anybody else, we're going to work our hardest with this kid. We're going to keep our thumb on him. Then it's just a matter of the players rising to the occasion." And I think Baker's done that over the course of his lifetime. He's won in high school, won in college. He's won some games in the NFL, and now it's his third year, and I just think there's a natural progression to these things, end quote. First of all, the Browns added offensive pieces last season, and it was a disaster. But I blame that more on Freddie Kitchens and the incompetence of him than I do the players. Not to mention the fact that the Browns medical staff completely fucked Odell Beckham by electing not to have his surgery on that hernia injury, which would have kept him out 3 to 4 weeks at the beginning of the season. Instead, they had him play through it, and it bothered him the entire year. But it's that one little comment that Kevin Stefanski made that kind of perked my ears up. Maybe it slipped out when he said it. We're going to keep our thumb on him. To me, that is Kevin Stefanski saying that Baker Mayfield is on a short leash. There will be no more of these antics, the shit talking in the media. Our expectation of you is to play football and win games. We don't give a fuck about your commercials and your endorsement deals. There is not a doubt in my mind. If Baker Mayfield struggles out of the gate, if the Browns start the season 1-3, 2-4, his days in Cleveland are over. Don't forget, Baker Mayfield is not Kevin Stefanski's guy. He didn't draft him. What he did do was bring in Case Keenum. Case Keenum is his guy. This is a make or break season for Baker Mayfield. I know I've said that so many times on this podcast, but it's the truth. If he doesn't get his shit together this offseason and get the Browns off to a hot start, not only will he be finished in Cleveland, as a starter, he might be finished for a while in the league. He'll be in the same situation that Jameis Winston finds himself in now, a backup. When you get drafted somewhere, a shitty organization especially, and you become the starting quarterback, and then you fail, you rarely get another immediate opportunity to become the starter on another team. In most cases, a team will bring you in as a backup, but rarely as a starter. Happened to Tyrod Taylor after he left Buffalo, Cam Newton, Teddy Bridgewater. And Teddy Bridgewater didn't even fail in Minnesota. He just had a brutal injury, and no one knew if he'd ever play again, much less be the same quarterback that he was with the Vikings. This isn't the first time that the Cleveland Browns as an organization have had to deal with issues from a young quarterback. Who the hell could forget Johnny Manziel and the disaster that he was? Now, Baker Mayfield doesn't have the off-the-field issues that Johnny Manziel had, but their personalities on the field and with the media are similar. The shit talking when you haven't accomplished a fucking thing in the NFL, losing games, it's the same story. Johnny Manziel was a lost cause though. Didn't matter if Bill Belichick was still the coach in Cleveland. Johnny Manziel was not going to make it in the NFL. I am rarely a defender of Baker Mayfield, but the circumstances in Cleveland haven't been great for the development of a young quarterback. He's on his third coach and third offensive system in 3 years. That's hard enough for a veteran to overcome, much less a rookie and a second-year quarterback. He played under a coach last season that allowed the locker room to get completely out of control, allowed the inmates to run the asylum. But none of that matters right now. The NFL is an unforgiving league. If Baker Mayfield and the Browns get off to a slow start, like I said a minute ago, it is over for him in Cleveland. It doesn't matter. Kevin Stefanski doesn't give a fuck if you've had to learn your third offensive system in 3 years. If you come out of the gate slow, we're yanking you. I don't think Kevin Stefanski will hesitate to pull the trigger on a quarterback change and go with who he's comfortable with in Case Keenum. Now, Jarvis Landry can come out and defend Baker Mayfield all he wants. He came out earlier this week and said the team last season was to blame for Baker Mayfield's struggles, not Baker himself. Doesn't matter. All that matters now is what happens in 2020. Now, Jarvis Landry also said that he knows Baker Mayfield is a winner because he's won at the high school and the college level, just like Kevin Stefanski said. The league is full of former quarterbacks who won in high school and won in college and shit the bed in the NFL. Jamarcus Russell was a dominant high school quarterback and a dominant college quarterback. Bust in the NFL. Hell, Johnny Manziel was great in high school and college. Bust in the NFL. What do both of those guys have in common with Baker Mayfield? A shitty work ethic. They allowed themselves to be distracted instead of focusing on football. That's what happened to Baker Mayfield last offseason. He thought that he was on top of the world after ending the 2018 season 5-3, which only in Cleveland would that be an accomplishment worthy of patting yourself on the back. He spent the entire offseason focusing on everything other than improving his game, and it caught up to him last year. The difference between Jamarcus Russell, Johnny Manziel, and Baker Mayfield, I think Baker Mayfield will be motivated this offseason to do well. One thing about him, he's stubborn. He will be out to prove himself. Whether or not that happens is anyone's guess. I don't know. What I do know is that if he does struggle, his days in Cleveland will be numbered. Alright, that's all for today. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button for me. You can click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Leave me a comment in the section below. Let me know what you think about Baker Mayfield. Are you thinking that his days in Cleveland are numbered if he struggles coming out of the gate? And will Case Keenum eventually be the starter in Cleveland? Let me know what you think about that. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84, and I will see you guys next time.